Hi guys, let's continue with the 35th UPSC 2020 Prelims test series from Vision IAS. So question number 26. Consider the following pairs. Vedic terms and we have the meaning or what it stands for. Number 1, IAS, it would be metal. Number 2, Vrihi, tribe. Number 3, Vrajapati, it would be chief of army. Wheat, rice. Which of the pairs given above is or are correctly matched? So the correct answer is A. That is one only. So the correct answer is A. That is Ayas is it stands for metal. The Vedas is an ancient Indian collection of Vedic Sanskrit hymns. These texts gives an idea about the polity, material life, family and social divisions that existed in ancient India around 1000 to 500 BCE. In Rig Veda, Ayas is used as a general term for metal, but in Atharva Veda we find a mention of Lohitayas and Syamayas meaning copper and iron respectively. Another important term which stands for the tribe in the Rig Veda is Vis. Probably the Vis was divided into grama or smaller tribal units meant for fighting. When the gramas clashed with one another, it caused samgrama or war. Some of the words used in it for day-to-day aspects include Rajan, it stands for king. Sabha, Samiti, Vidhata, or Gana, it stands for clan based assemblies. Purohita, it stands for important functionary in the court of king. Senani, it stands for chief of army. Bali, it stands for offerings. Vrajapati, it stands for enjoyed authority over large pasture of land. Kulapas, it stands for head of family, and Vis stands for tribe. Niksha and Satmana, it stands for coins. Vrihi, it stands for rice, and Yajamana, it stands for sacrificer. So the correct answer is A, that is one only. Now let's come to question number 27. In light of the COVID-19 pandemic, consider the following statements regarding the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. Statement 1. It provides insurance scheme for all healthcare workers fighting COVID-19. Number 2. It aims to provide free food grains only to the population below the poverty line. Number 3. It has increased the minimum wage amount under the MG Narega scheme. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct option is B. That is 1 and 3 only. So 1 and 3 are correct. The Union Finance and Corporate Affairs has announced rupees 1.70 lakh crore relief package under Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana for the poor to help them fight the battle against coronavirus. Following are the components of the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana. The first one is insurance scheme for health workers fighting COVID-19 in government hospitals and healthcare workers. Safai Karamcharis, ward boys, nurses, ASA workers, paramedics, technicians, doctors and specialists and other health workers would be covered by a special insurance scheme. All government health centers, wellness centers and hospitals of center as well as states would be covered under this scheme. Approximately 22 lakh health workers would be provided insurance cover to fight this pandemic. Hence statement 1 is correct. PM Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana 80 crore individuals, that is roughly two-thirds of India's population, would be covered under this scheme. 80 crore poor people will get 5 kg of wheat or rice and 1 kg of preferred pulses for free every month for the next 3 months. Hence, statement 2 is not correct. The benefits to farmers. The first installment of Rs 2000 due in 2020-21 will be front-loaded and paid in April 2020 itself under the PM Kisan Yojana. It would cover 8.7 crore farmers. Cash transfers under PM Garib Kalyan Yojana. A total of 20.40 crores. PMJDY women account holders would be given an ex gratia of Rs 500 per month for the next 3 months. Under this package, the government proposes to buy 24% of monthly wages of workers, that is, wage earners below Rs 15,000 per month in businesses having less than 100 workers, into their PF accounts for the next 3 months. And ex gratia of Rs 1,000 to 3 crore poor senior citizens, poor widows and poor disabled will be given. Under PM Garib Kalyan Yojana, gas cylinders free of cost would be provided to 8 crore poor farmers for the next 3 months. Under PM Garib Kalyan Yojana, MG Narega wages would be increased by Rs 20 with effect from 1st April 2020. The wage increase under MG Narega will provide an additional Rs 2,000 benefit annually to a worker. Hence, statement 3 is correct. Welfare Fund for Building and Other Constructions Workers has been created under a central government act. State governments will be given directions to utilize this fund to provide assistance and support to these workers to protect them against economic disruptions. The state government will be asked to utilize the funds available under the District Mineral Fund, that is DMF, for supplementing and augmenting facilities for medical testing, screening, and other requirements in connection with preventing the spread of COVID-19 pandemic as well as treating the patients affected from this pandemic. Earlier in 2016, a scheme named Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana was launched by the Government of India, which provided an opportunity to declare unaccounted wealth and black money in a confidential manner. This scheme was discontinued in 2017 and should not be confused with the above mentioned package. Now let's come to question number 28. With reference to joint forest management, JFM, and community forest resource, that is CFR management, consider the following statements. Statement 1. JFM lacks any statutory sanctity while CFR right is recognized under the Forest Rights Act 2006. Statement 2. JFM is jointly done by the Forest Department and the local community, while CFR is managed by members only from Gram Sabha. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is C. That is, both the statements are correct. So 1 and 2 are correct. Joint Forest Management JFM versus Community Forest Resource CFR Management. Joint forest management is a concept of developing relationships between fringe forest groups and forest departments on the basis of mutual trust and jointly defined rules and responsibilities for forest protection and development. The primary and most significant basis for JFM is provided by the National Forest Policy of 1988. Thus, it lacks any statutory sanctity. Unlike CRF, which is a right recognized under the FRA 2006. Hence, statement 1 is correct. Under JFM, both the Forest Department and the local community form a Joint Forest Management Committee, that is JFMC, and an executive committee to manage and protect forests by sharing the cost and benefits. However, CFR management committees, that is CFRMCs, comprise members exclusively from the Gram Sabha with no representation of forest or other officials with 100% authority over collection and sale of all anti-FPs. Hence, statement 2 is correct. Forest Right Act 2006 provides for individual rights such as legally hold forest lands and community rights like rights of grazing, collection of firewood, fish, etc. Now let's come to question number 29. Which of the following statements is or are correct about the eminent Sanskrit poet Raja Shekhara? Statement 1. He wrote Kavya Mimamsa, a practical guide for poets. Number 2. He was a court poet of the Gurjara Pratiharas. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is C. The correct answer is C, that is both 1 and 2 are correct. Raja Shekhara was an eminent Sanskrit poet, dramatist, and critic. He was the court poet of the Gujara Pratiharas. Hence, statement 2 is correct. Raja Shekhara wrote the Kavya Mimamsa between 880 and 920 CE. The work is essentially a practical guide for poets that explains the elements and composition of a good poem. Hence, statement 1 is correct. He is most noted for the Karpura Manjari, a play written in Sauraseni Prakrit. Raja Shekhara wrote the poem to please his wife, Avanti Sundari, a woman of taste and accomplishment. Raja Shekhara is perhaps the only ancient Indian poet to acknowledge a woman for her contributions to his literary career. The other works attributed to poet Raja Shekhara include the number 1, Vidhasala Bhanjika. So number 1 is Vidhashala Bhanjika. Number 2, that is Bala Bharata. Number 3, Karpura Manjari. Then number 4, Bala Ramayana. Okay, Bal Ramayana. Now let's come to question number 30. E2020 initiative of the World Health Organization, that is WHO, deals with the elimination of which of the following diseases? Number A, Ebola. Number B, malaria. Number C, AIDS. Number D, tuberculosis. So the correct answer is B, that is malaria. According to the WHO, no endogenous malaria cases reported in 2018 by 4 countries from Asia, that is China, Iran, Malaysia, and Timor-Leste, and 1 from Central America, that is El Salvador. Such countries were included in the E2020 campaign initiative by the WHO in 2016, focusing on efforts to reduce malaria by 2020 in 21 countries spread across 5 continents. In May 2015, the World Health Assembly endorsed a new global technical strategy for malaria 2016-2030, setting ambitious goals aimed at dramatically lowering the global malaria burden over this 15-year period. while milestones along the way to track progress. A key milestone for 2020 is the elimination of malaria in at least 10 countries that has the disease in 2015. To meet this target, countries must report zero indigenous cases in 2020. According to a WHO analysis published in 2016, 21 countries have the potential to eliminate malaria by 2020. They have selected based on an analysis that looked at the likelihood of elimination across three key criteria. Number one, trends in malaria case incidence between 2000 and 2016. Number two, declared malaria objectives of affected countries. And number three, informed opinions of WHO experts in the field. Together, these 21 malaria eliminating countries, of which India is not a part of, these countries are part of a concerted effort known as the E2020 initiative, supported by WHO and other partners to eliminate malaria in an ambitious but technically feasible time frame. Now let's come to question number 31. Consider the following pairs. Indian reason and vegetation. Number one, Andaman and Nicobar hydrophytes. Number two, Ladakh xerophytes. Number three, Run of Kutch halophytes. Which of the statements given above is or are correctly matched? So the correct answer is D. That is 1, 2 and 3. So all the pairs are correct. Pair 1 is correctly matched. The Andaman and Nicobar Islands soil and vegetation is favorable for tropical evergreen forest and semi-evergreen forest. In some regions, the soil and vegetation of Andaman and Nicobar Islands also support tropical monsoon. The soil and vegetation at Andaman and Nicobar Islands supports the growth of epiphytic vegetations, that is, plants that grow on other plants. Hydrophytes are aquatic plants that are especially suited for living in aquatic environments. In order to survive, a hydrophyte, also known as an aquatic macrophyte, must either be completely submerged in water or in some cases be allowed to float on the surface of the water. A hygrophyte is a plant living above ground that is adapted to the conditions of abundant moisture paths of the surrounding air. These plants inhabit mainly wet and dark forest and islands, darkened swamp, and very humid and floody meadows. The inland vegetation of Andaman and Nicobar Islands includes evergreen forest, deciduous forest, grasslands, and hydrophytic vegetation. Pair 2 is correctly matched. Many plants have become so modified during the course of evolution that they are able to thrive under conditions where the available soil water is comparatively small in amount and where plants without special adaptive modifications would rapidly perish. Such drought-loving plants are known as xerophytes. Ladakh is described as a cold desert. At lower elevation, much of the area is covered by desert and semi-desert plants. Steppe vegetation is found at middle elevation up to 5,000 to 5,400 meter. Alpine grasslands form a narrow belt above the steppe vegetation and extend as narrow strips near glaciers. Pair 3 is correctly matched. Run of Kutch in northwest India is a unique saline marshy desert. The runs turns into marshy land by inundated water from runoff during monsoonal rainfall and water driven by forces of winds and tides from the Arabian Sea, making the area unapproachable, especially during June to September and in remainder of months. The area remains as a hypersaline desert. Even at these extreme saline conditions, certain halophytic plants come up from the native seed bank or roots once the water gets evaporated, as these plants possess some mechanisms to survive salinity even higher than that of seawater. Now let's come to question number 32. With reference to India's folk culture, what is Zapi? Number A. It is an ancient style of poetry work still prevalent in the tribal areas of northeast India. Number B. It is a traditional headgear of Assamese to protect them from the sun and rain. Number C. It is a form of painting depicting human figures in traditional Rajasthani costumes. Number D. It is a tribal dance form with primitive drums and refreshing vigor and movements performed in Saurashtra region. So the correct answer is B. So the correct answer is B. Zapi is a traditional symbol of Assamese folk culture. In the earlier days when umbrellas were unheard of, farmers used zapi as a headgear to protect them from the sun and rain. This made zapi an essential gear for the farmers while working in the fields. Zapi making is an indigenous cottage industry of Assam. They're made of bamboo or cane and palm leaves. As the materials required to make zapi are easily available, the craft of zapi making is quite popular in the rural areas. There are various types of zapi such as bor zapi, tuppi zapi, ukka zapi, or halwa zapi, sora, sora daya zapi, or fulam zapi, etc. Owing to its huge demand in the market, Fulam Zapi is made in large numbers by the skilled Zapi makers. In the past, people from high ranks of the society used to wear the Bor Zapi during festivals and important occasions. Its usage has been prevalent from the days of a home rule. While a home officials holding the title of Buragohen, Borgohen, Borpatrogohen, etc., wore zapis ornamented with gold on the top. Borfukan wore zapi ornamented with silver. Ukazapi was used by farmers and workers as a protective headgear against sun and rain. It is also known as Halua Zapi or Gorokhya Zapi. However, the popularity of this particular zapi has dwindled in the recent times. Among the various types of zapis, the most popular one is the Fulam zapi or the Sorudaya zapi. It is made of small, smooth sticks of bamboo. It is widely used in Bihu dance and as a decorative piece in the drawing room of the house. Zapi finds a prominent place in the Assamese socio-cultural way of life. It is deeply connected with Bihu. Mention of Zapi can be found in both Bihu dance and Bihu folk songs. At present, Fulam Zapi has turned into a cultural symbol of Assam on a global platform. Now let's come to question number 33. Consider the following statements regarding Ganges River dolphin. Number 1, its habitat is confined to River Ganga and its tributaries. Number 2, they are classified as critically endangered by IUCN. Number 3, it has been designated as India's national aquatic animal. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is C, that is 3 only. So only the third statement is correct. The Ganges River dolphin, commonly known as Susu, is one of the only 3 recognized obligate freshwater dolphins which inhabit rivers and estuaries in Asia and South America, and all are among the most endangered cetacean on Earth. The remaining species are the Indus River dolphin, common name Bhulan of Pakistan, and the Amazon River dolphin, commonly named Boto of Latin America. The fourth one was the Baiji or Chinese river dolphin, was declared functionally extinct in 2006. The Government of India declared it as National Aquatic Animal on 5th October 2009, and a formal notification was issued by the Ministry of Environment and Forest on 10th May 2010. Hence, statement 3 is correct. The Ganges River dolphin is endemic to the Indian subcontinent and has a fairly extensive distribution range. It is found in the Ganges, Brahmaputra, Meghna, and Karnafuli, Sangu river systems of India and Bangladesh, while a few individuals may survive in the Karnali and the Sapta-Koshi rivers in Nepal. Hence, statement 1 is not correct. A meaningful estimate of range-wise abundance is lacking. However, approximately 2,500 to 3,000 Ganges River dolphins are assumed to survive across their entire range. The IUCN changed its status from vulnerable to endangered in 1996, as the species population was declining on its entire distribution range. So statement 2 is incorrect, as it is written as critically endangered, but it should be endangered only. Now let's come to question number 34. The term Question number 34. The term deep fake, sometimes seen in news, is related to number A, technology used to detect fake news in the social media. Number B, algorithms uses to manipulate the appearance and voices into real-looking footages. Number C, robots sent on the seabed to discover the polymetallic nodules. Number D, software used in the banks to detect counterfeit currency. So the correct answer is B. The correct answer is B. The word deepfake is made from deep learning and fake. Deepfake is an artificial intelligence software that superimposes a digital composite onto an existing video or audio. These are AI powered algorithms that manipulate appearances and voices of people into real looking footage. Hence, option B is correct. So, what are the concerns? As deepfakes are created through AI, they don't require the considerable skill that it would take to create a realistic video otherwise, which implies that just about anyone could create a deepfake to promote their chosen agenda. Background of deepfake. The origin of the word deepfake can be traced back to 2017 when a Reddit user with the surname Deepfakes posted explicit videos of celebrities. Now let's come to question number 35. Consider the following passage. I was a diplomat who came to visit India from Herat in the 15th century. My travelogue provides an interesting mixture of emotions and perceptions. I didn't appreciate what I saw at the port of Calicut. However, I was filled with admiration on visiting the temple near the Western Ghats in my subsequent visits. Which of the following personalities does the above passage refer to? Number A, Abdur Rajak. Number B, Ibn Battuta. Number C, Ibn Zuzay. Number D, Al-Biruni. So the correct answer is A. So for question number 35, the correct answer is A, that is Abdur Razak. Abdur Razak was a diplomat who came to India from Herat in the 15th century. The travelogue of Abdur Razak, written in the 1440s, is an interesting mixture of emotions and perceptions. On the one hand, he did not appreciate what he saw in the port of Calicut, which is present-day Kozhikode in Kerala, which was populated by a people the likes of whom I had never imagined, describing them as a strange nation. Later in his visit to India, he arrived in Mangalore and crossed the Western Ghats. Here he saw a temple that filled him with admiration. Hence, option A is the correct answer. Ibn Battuta was a Muslim Moroccan scholar and explorer who widely traveled the medieval world over a period of 30 years. Ibn Battuta visited most of the Islamic world and many non-Muslim lands, including Central Asia, Southeast Asia, India, and China. He wrote one of the world's most famous travelogues, the Riala. This great work describes the people, places, and cultures he encountered in his journeys along some 75,000 miles across and beyond the Islamic world. Next, we have Muhammad ibn Ahmed ibn Zuzay al-Kalbi al-Gharnati was an Arab scholar, writer of poetry, history, and law from Al-Andalus. He is mainly known as the writer to whom Ibn Battuta dictated an account of his travels. Next, we have Abu Rihan Muhammad bin Ahmed is popularly known as Al-Biruni, who was born in 973 AD in Khiza region and one of the jewel of Mahmud's courts. He was a renowned philosopher, a mathematician, and a historian. He came to India with Mahmud and lived here for many years. The Indian culture attracted him and he learned Sanskrit. He studied Indian philosophy. He toured large portions of India and studied the socio-economic condition of this land. In his book, Tahqiq-e-Hind, Tahqiq-e-Hind, he described the social, political, religious, and economic conditions of the then India. Here we are giving the Al-Biruni's description of India to understand the socio-political, economical situation of that era. Now let's come to question number 36. Which of the following is or are correct with reference to Agricultural Marketing and Farmer-Friendly Reforms Index? Statement 1. It ranks the Indian states and the Union territories based on the implementation of provisions proposed under the Model APMC Act. Number 2. It was launched by the Niti Aayog. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is C. The correct answer is C, that is both 1 and 2. So both the statements are correct. Maharashtra achieved the first rank in Niti Aayog launched Agricultural Marketing and Farmer Friendly Reforms Index, which is called as AMFFRI, free, which ranks states based on the degree of reforms they have undertaken in agricultural marketing. According to the Economic Survey 2018-19, the state has implemented most of the marketing reforms and it offers the best environment for doing agri-business among all the states or union territories. Gujarat ranks second with a score of 71.5 out of 100, closely followed by Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh. Hence, statement 2 is correct. So, the first rank is Maharashtra, second rank is Gujarat, next Rajasthan, next we have Madhya Pradesh. Niti Aayog launched in 2016 the index to rank states and the union territories based on the implementation of 7 provisions proposed under Model APMC Act, like joining the e-NAM initiative, special treatment to fruits and vegetables for marketing, the level of taxes in the mandis. Hence, statement 1 is correct. These indicators reveal ease of doing agri-business as well as opportunities for farmers to benefit from modern trade and commerce and have a wider option for the sale of his or her produce. These indicators also represent competitiveness, efficiency, and transparency in agri markets. The second era of reforms captured by the index includes the facilitation and liberalization of land lease. The third area included in the index represents freedom given to farmers for the felling and transit of trees grown on private land. This represents an opportunity to diversify the farm business. AMFFRI Humphrey has a score that can have minimum value 0, implying no reforms, and maximum value 100, implying complete reforms in the selected areas. States and union territories have been ranked using this index. No state in the country has implemented the entire set of market reforms. Also, land leasing and harvest and marketing of some tree species on private farmland are subjected to various degrees of restrictions in almost all the states or union territories. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 37. The compound of this material has unique semiconducting characteristics and has led to the development of technologies for conversion of carbon dioxide into fuel using sunlight and water, thus providing a solution for twin problems of pollution and fossil fuel depletion. It acts as a photoelectrocatalyst in artificial photosynthesis. Which of the following material is being referred to in the above passage? So for option A we have lithium nitride, number B lithium bromide, number C carbon nitride, number D carbon tetrabromide. So the correct answer is C, that is carbon nitride. One of the promising technologies for future alternative energy sources is the direct conversion of sunlight into chemical and electrical energy by using artificial photosynthesis. Artificial photosynthesis has the potential to produce clean and cheap, renewable energy without dependence on fossil fuels and without carbon dioxide emission. Artificial photosynthesis applications span from many fields such as solar fuel production, water splitting, photo degradation of pollutants, and catalysis of other chemical reactions, example for the production of fine chemicals. An important challenge in artificial photosynthesis is the development of stable and inexpensive catalysts that can harvest visible light in the solar spectrum. Although the great progress in this field over the last years, the energy conversion efficiency of artificial photosynthesis remained low. While most of the research in this field is powered on metal-based semiconductors like metal oxides, sulfides, and nitrides as photoelectrocatalysts, in the last years metal-free graphitic carbon nitride (GCN) materials have attracted widespread attention due to their electrocatalytic and photocatalytic activity alongside their low price and simple synthesis. The carbon nitrides like C3N5, C3N6, C3N7 have unique semiconducting characteristics. It has led to the development of technologies for conversion of carbon dioxide into fuel using sunlight and water, and clean tech like sodium ion batteries to power electric vehicles. Carbon nitride can be used as a metal-free photocatalyst for water splitting, metal-free system for carbon capture and conversion, electrode material for supercapacitors and battery, as an electrode catalyst for fuel cells, electrode for solar cell. It will help in finding a solution for twin problems of pollution and fossil fuel depletion. Hence, option C is the correct answer. Now let's come to question number 38. Consider the following statements regarding fundamental rights and legal rights. Statement 1. Both legal rights and fundamental rights are protected by the Constitution. Statement 2. Fundamental rights cannot be amended, whereas legal rights can be amended. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is D, that is neither 1 nor 2. So both the statements are incorrect. Statement 1 is not correct. Fundamental rights are different from other rights available to us. While ordinary legal rights are protected and enforced by ordinary law, fundamental rights are protected and guaranteed by the Constitution of the country. Constitutional rights are a subset of legal rights. Right to property is often referred to as a legal right. It is provided under the Constitution. Statement 2 is not correct. Unlike legal rights, reasonable restrictions cannot be imposed on fundamental rights as they are guaranteed and protected by the Constitution. Ordinary rights may be changed by the legislature by the ordinary process of law-making, but a fundamental right may also be but a fundamental right may only be changed by amending the Constitution itself. Besides this, no organ of the government can act in a manner that violates them. However, fundamental rights are not absolute or unlimited rights. The government can put reasonable restrictions on the exercise of our fundamental rights. So both the statements are incorrect. Now let's come to question number 39. Who among the following has the authority to alter the boundaries of the scheduled areas? Statement A, President. Number B, Governor of the state. Number C, Parliament. Number D, State Legislature. So the correct answer is A. The correct answer is A, that is President. The fifth schedule of the Constitution deals with the administration and control of scheduled areas and scheduled tribes in any state except the four states of Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura, and Mizoram. The various features of administration contained in the fifth schedule are as follows. Number 1, we have the declaration of scheduled areas. The President is empowered to declare an area to be a scheduled area. He can also increase or decrease its area, alter its boundary lines, rescind such designation, or make fresh orders for such redesignation on an area in consultation with the governor of the state concerned. Hence, option A is the correct answer. Then the next, point number 2, executive power of state and center. The executive power of a state extends to the scheduled areas therein, but the governor has a special responsibility regarding such areas. Number 3, Tribes Advisory Council. Each state having scheduled areas has to establish a Tribes Advisory Council to advise on welfare and advancement of the scheduled tribes. Number 4, Law application to scheduled areas. The governor is empowered to direct that any particular act of parliament or the state legislature does not apply to a scheduled area or apply with specified modifications and exceptions. Now let's come to question number 14. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. Application of synthetic fertilizer results in the emission of nitrous oxide into the environment. Number 2. Phosphatic fertilizers are one of the causes of uranium pollution in the soils in India. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is C. That is both 1 and 2. So both the statements are correct. Fertilizer consumption was less than 1 million tons before the mid-1960s. With the introduction of high-yielding variety, that is the HYV seeds, there was an acceleration in the growth of fertilizer consumption. It reached 12.73 million tons in 1991-92 as against 0.78 million tons in 1965-66. After the decontrol of P&K fertilizers, the growth in consumption slowed. The highest consumption was recorded in 1999-2000, 18.07 million tons of nutrients. Since then, the growth in consumption has been erratic. The total fertilizer consumption in India is 27 million tons, out of which about 20 to 25% of phosphorus and nitrogen-based nutrients are dependent on imports. The fertilizer industry in India does not follow all procedures and protocols essential for the decontamination of imported phosphatic rock associated with traces of uranium. On the other hand, fertilizer industries in the US and Israel ensure complete decontamination before use. It is understood that the decontamination process, which is expensive, is not taken into consideration by the domestic industry. Hence, statement 2 is correct. According to the United Nations Scientific Committee on the Effects of Atomic Radiation, its normal concentration in soil is between 300 micrograms per kg and 11.7 milligram per kg. Uranium concentration in phosphatic fertilizer (DAP) was around 91.77 parts per million, which was way beyond the permissible limit. A major direct source of nitrous oxide from agricultural soils is that of synthetic fertilizer use, where large applications of fertilizer are combined with soil conditions favorable to denitrification. Large amounts of nitrous oxide can be produced and emitted to the atmosphere. Hence, statement 1 is correct. Currently, there are no guidelines or acceptable standards regarding the amount of uranium in fertilizers produced in India. Central Pollution Control Board (CPCB) needs to take cognizance and needs to specify the acceptable limit of uranium in fertilizers and groundwater. Now let's come to question number 41. Which of the following are the United Nations specialized agencies? Number 1, International Labour Organization. Number 2, World Trade Organization. Number 3, World Health Organization. Number 4, International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Number 5, International Telecommunication Union. Select the correct answer using the code given below. So the correct answer is C. The correct answer is C. That is 1, 3, 4, and 5. So 1, 3, 4, and 5. So the first one is International Labour Organization. Number 3 is World Health Organization. Number 4 is International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Then number 5 would be International Telecommunication Union. The UN specialized agencies are autonomous organizations working with United Nations. All were brought into relationship with the UN through negotiated agreements. Some existed before the First World War. Some were associated with the League of Nations. Others were created almost simultaneously with the UN. Others were created by the UN to meet emerging needs. The specialized agencies are: the first one is Food and Agriculture Organization. It leads international effort to fight hunger. It is both a forum for negotiating agreements between developing and developed countries and a source of technical knowledge and information to aid development. Number 2, the International Civil Aviation Organization. It develops standards for global air transport and assists its 192 member states in sharing the world's skies to their socio-economic benefit. Number 3, the International Fund for Agricultural Development. Since it was created in 1977, it has focused exclusively on rural poverty reduction, working with poor rural populations in developing countries to eliminate poverty, hunger, and malnutrition, raise their productivity and incomes, and improve the quality of their lives. Number 4, the International Labour Organization. It promotes international labor rights by formulating international standards on the freedom to associate, collective bargaining, the abolition of forced labor, and quality of opportunity and treatment. Number 5, the International Monetary Fund. It fosters economic growth and employment by providing temporary financial assistance to countries to help ease balance of payment adjustment and technical assistance. The IMF currently has 28 billion dollars in outstanding loans to 74 nations. Number 6, the International Maritime Organization. So it has created a comprehensive shipping regulatory framework addressing safety and environmental concerns, legal matters, technical cooperation, security, and efficiency. Next, we have the International Telecommunication Union. It is the United Nations specialized agency for information and communication technologies. It is committed to connecting all the world's people wherever they live and whatever their means. Through our work, we protect and support everyone's fundamental right to communicate. Next, we have the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, that is UNESCO. It focuses on everything from teacher training to helping improve education worldwide to protecting important historical and cultural sites around the world. UNESCO added 28 new World Heritage Sites this year to the list of irreplaceable treasures that will be protected for today's travelers and future generations. The United Nations Industrial Development Organization. It is the specialized agency of the United Nations that promotes industrial development for poverty reduction, inclusive globalization, and environmental sustainability. Next, we have the World Tourism Organization. It is the United Nations agency responsible for the promotion of responsible, sustainable, and universally accessible tourism. Next, we have the Universal Postal Union. It is the primary forum for cooperation between postal sector players. It helps to ensure a truly universal network of up-to-date products and services. Next, we have the World Health Organization, WHO. It is the directing and coordinating authority on the environment on international. So WHO is the directing and coordinating authority on international health within the United Nations system. The objective of WHO is the containment by all peoples of the highest possible level of health. Health, as defined in the WHO Constitution, is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. The World Intellectual Property Organization. It protects intellectual property throughout the world through 23 international treaties. Next, we have the World Meteorological Organization. It facilitates the free international exchange of meteorological data and information and the furtherance of its use in aviation, shipping, security, and agriculture, among other things. The phrase related organization is an umbrella expression used to refer to any organization that has a cooperation agreement with the UN but is not a UN specialized agency. For example, the World Trade Organization, that is WTO, is a forum for governments to negotiate trade agreements and a place where member governments try to sort out the trade problems they face with each other. Now let's come to question number 42. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. Sir William Sleeman is said to be the architect of the campaign against Tugi. Number 2. A separate Tugi and Dacoity department was established in the 1830s to deal with rising cases of Tugi in British India. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is C, that is both 1 and 2. So both the statements are correct. The British conquest of the Deccan and central India by the beginning of the 18th century created the reformist urge to establish Pax Britannica. So the British conquest of the Deccan and central India by the beginning of the 19th century created the reformist urge to establish Pax Britannica in those unsettled territories. But that became a difficult proposition as the disbanding of armies by the Indian chiefs and the general contraction of job opportunities increased the rate of crime, particularly robbery by roving armed gangs. To this was added the official distrust for the wandering monastic orders, which challenged the very British ideal of a settled tax-paying peasant community. Hence all these various peripatetic groups were stereotyped into a colonial construct called thugs, who were believed to have been members of a fraternity traditionally involved in robbery and ritual killings in the name of religion. The campaign against Tugi was initiated in the 1830s in the assertion of the same humanitarian mission of British paramountcy championed by Lord William Bentinck. He is often credited with the eradication of thugs and Tugi in India. The purpose of the campaign was not to root it out through education or regeneration of the indigenous society. The Tugi Act 30 of 1836 and the Tugi Department were simply aiming at policing and prosecuting gangs seen as perpetuating crime in the name of religion. Hence statement 2 is correct. In 1839, Sir William Sleeman, the architect of the campaign, claimed that Tugis as an organized system had been exterminated. Hence statement 1 is correct. But in subsequent years, from 1830 to 1848, several legislations like Tugi and Dacoity Suppression Acts were passed. Now let's come to question number 43. Consider the following statements. Statement 1. Tax buoyancy refers to the responsiveness of tax mobilization to economic growth. Number 2. Tax elasticity refers to the responsiveness of tax revenue to the change in tax rates. Number 3. Laffer curve is the graphical representation of the concept of tax buoyancy. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is B, that is 1 and 2 only. So statements 1 and 2 are correct. Tax buoyancy explains the relationship between the changes in the government's tax revenue growth and the changes in GDP. Hence, statement 1 is correct. When a tax is buoyant, it its revenue increases without increasing the tax rate. Tax buoyancy will be highest for direct taxes. Tax elasticity refers to changes in tax revenue in response to changes in the tax rate. Hence, statement 2 is correct. The Laffer curve describes the relationship between tax rates and total tax revenue, with an optimal tax rate that maximizes total government tax revenue. So the Laffer curve represents the concept of tax elasticity. Hence, statement 3 is not correct. Now let's come to question number 44. While a part of this state lies on the same latitude as Gujarat, the Tropic of Cancer does not pass through it, and the Indian Standard Meridian passes through it. The northern part of this state is an extension of the forest-covered and mineral-rich Chota Nagpur Plateau. And the southern part is an extension of the Eastern Ghats. Notable mountain peaks include Mahendragiri and Malayagiri. Which of the following states is being described in the above passage? So the option A is Chhattisgarh, B is Odisha, C is Andhra Pradesh, and D is West Bengal. The correct answer is B, that is Orissa. The state of Orissa can be divided broadly into 4 natural divisions: the northern plateau, the eastern Ghats, the central tract, and the coastal plains. The northern plateau in the northern part of the state is an extension of the forest-covered and mineral-rich Chota Nagpur Plateau centered in Jharkhand. The eastern Ghats, extending roughly parallel to the coast and rising to an elevation of about 3,600 feet, are remnants of a very ancient line of hills in the eastern peninsula region, in eastern peninsula India. The central tract comprises a series of plateaus and basins occupying the inland area of the west and northern and the north of the eastern Ghats. The plateau areas provide scant resources, but several of the basins, notably the Kalahandi, Balangir, Hirakud, and Jharsuguda, have the soil and irrigation facilities to support local agriculture. The coastal plains are formed of alluvial soils deposited by the many rivers flowing to the Bay of Bengal. Locally, the area is known as the Balasore coastal plain to the northeast, the Mahanadi River Delta in the center, and the Chilka Plain to the southwest. In addition to the Mahanadi, the main rivers are the Suvarnarekha, Buddhabalanga, Betarani, Brahmani, Rushikulya, and Vamsadhara. Orissa's saltwater Chilka Lake is one of the largest lagoons in India. Notably, mountain peaks include Mahendragiri, 4,924 feet, Malayagiri, 3,894 feet, and Meghasini, 3,822 feet. Now let's come to next question, that is question number 45. Consider the following statements regarding Global Partnership on Marine Litter, GPML. Statement 1. It is an intergovernmental partnership comprising only G20 countries as members. Statement 2. It was launched at the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, Rio Plus 20 in June 2012. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is B. That is 2 only. So the correct answer is B, that is 2 only. Global Partnership on Marine Litter, GPML. It is a multi-stakeholder partnership that brings together all actors working to prevent marine litter and microplastics. It is a voluntary open-ended partnership for international agencies, governments, businesses, academia, local authorities, non-governmental organizations, and individuals. Hence, statement 1 is not correct. It provides a unique global platform to share knowledge and experience. Partners are able to work together to create and advance solutions on this pressing global issue. It was launched at the United Nations Conference on Sustainable Development, Rio Plus 20 in June 2012 in response to a request set out in the Manila Declaration on Furthering the Implementation of the Global Programme of Action for the Protection of the Marine Environment from land-based activities. Hence, statement 2 is correct. The partnership is led by a steering committee and the United Nations Environment Programme, that is UNEP, provides secretariat services. Now let's come to its missions. It seeks to protect the global marine environment, human well-being, and animal welfare by addressing the global problem of marine litter by number 1, providing a mechanism for cooperation and coordination, sharing idea, knowledge, and experiences, identifying gaps and emerging issues. Statement 2, harnessing the expertise, resources, and enthusiasm of all stakeholders. Number 3, making a significant contribution to the achievement of the 2030 Agenda, in particular SDG 14.1. By 2015, prevent and significantly reduce marine pollution of all kinds, particularly from land-based activities, including marine debris and nutrient pollution. Now let's come to question number 46. In ancient India, which factors led to the rise of the Magadha Empire? Statement 1. Its capital at Patliputra was a true water fort. Statement 2. Its location in Gangetic Plains enabled the peasants to produce surplus of grains and store for tough times. It was for statement 3, it was benefited by the rise of towns and the use of metal money. Select the correct answer using the code given below. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is B, that is 1, 2, and 3. All the statements are correct. During the Mahajanapada period, various factors led to the rise of Magadha Empire. Number 1, enterprising and ambitious rulers such as Bimbisara, Ajatasattu, and Mahapadmananda employed all means, fair and foul, at their disposal to enlarge their kingdom and strengthen their states. Number 2, Magadha enjoyed an advantageous geographical position in the Age of Iron. The richest iron deposits were situated not far away from Rajgir, the earliest capital of Magadha. This helped them equip with effective weapons. Number 3. The earlier capital Rajgir was surrounded by a group of 5 hills, and so it was rendered impregnable in those days when there was no easy means of storming citadels, such as cannons, which came to be invented much later. Number 4. Patliputra was situated at the confluence of the Ganga, the Gandak, and the Son, and a fourth river called the Ghagra joined the Ganga not far from Patliputra. Patliputra, therefore, was a true water fort. Hence, statement 1 is correct. Number 5. Magadha lay at the center of the middle Gangetic plain. This naturally enabled the peasants to produce considerable surplus, which came to be mopped up by the rulers in the form of taxes. Hence, statement 2 is correct. Number 6. Also, it was the first state to use elephants on large scale in its wars against its neighbors that helped in storming fortresses and in marching over marshy areas lacking roads. Number 7. They were also benefited by the rise of towns and the use of metal money on account of trade and commerce in northeast India. The princes could levy tolls on the sale of commodities and accumulate wealth to pay and maintain their army. Hence, statement 3 is correct. Now let's come to next question, that is question number 47. Consider the following statements with respect to Central Administrative Tribunal, that is CAT. Statement 1, it is a constitutional body. Number 2, it comprises of members drawn from both administrative and judicial streams. Statement 3, it is empowered to frame its own rules of procedure and practice. Which of these statements given above is or are correct? The correct answer is C, that is 2 and 3. So statements 2 and 3 are correct. Article 323A empowers the Parliament to provide for the establishment of administrative tribunals for the adjudication of disputes relating to recruitment and conditions of service of persons appointed to public services of the centre, the states, local bodies, public corporations, and other public authorities. In pursuance of Article 323A, the Parliament has passed the Administrative Tribunals Act in 1985. Under the Act, the Central Administrative Tribunal (CAT) was set up in 1985 with the principal bench at Delhi and additional benches in different states. Hence, CAT is a statutory body and not a constitutional body. Hence, statement 1 is not correct. The CAT exercises original jurisdiction in relation to recruitment and all service matters of public servants covered by it. The CAT is a multi-member body consisting of a chairman and members. At present, that is in 2019, the sanction strength of the German is 1 and the sanction strength of the members is 65. The CAT has been established as a specialist body comprising of administrative members and judicial members, who by virtue of their specialized knowledge are better equipped to dispense speedy and effective justice. The conditions of service of chairman and members are the same as applicable to a judge of high court. Hence statement 2 is correct. The tribunal is guided by the principles of natural justice in deciding cases and is not bound by the procedure prescribed by the Civil Procedure Code. The Central Administrative Tribunal is empowered to frame its own rules of procedure and practice. Hence statement 3 is correct. Now let's come to question number 48. Consider the following statements with reference to chemosynthesis. Statement 1. It involves the use of gamma radiation and a natural pigment called melanin to create energy for growth. Number 2. Chemosynthetic bacteria is found mainly around the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? So the correct answer is D. That is neither 1 nor 2. So both the statements are not correct. Chemosynthesis is the process by which certain microbes create energy by mediating chemical reactions. Chemosynthesis occurs in bacteria and other organisms and involves the use of energy released by inorganic chemical reactions to produce food. Autotrophs that perform chemosynthesis do not use energy from the sun to produce food. Instead, they make food using energy from chemical reactions, often combining hydrogen sulfide or methane with oxygen. So they often get this chemical reaction from the energy, often combining hydrogen sulfide or methane with oxygen. All chemosynthetic organisms use the energy released by chemical reactions to make sugar, but different species use different pathways. For example, at hydrothermal vent bacteria oxidize hydrogen sulfide, add carbon dioxide and oxygen and produce sugar, sulfur, and water. Organisms that use chemosynthesis live in extreme environments where the toxic chemicals needed for oxidation are found. For example, bacteria living in active volcanoes oxidize sulfur to produce their own food. At Yellowstone National Park in the US, bacteria capable of chemosynthesis have been found in hot springs. Bacteria that live in the deep ocean near hydrothermal vents also produce food through chemosynthesis. Hydrogen sulfide is used by the bacteria in chemosynthesis. Autotrophic bacteria that produce food through chemosynthesis have also been found at places on the sea floor called cold seeps. At cold seeps, hydrogen sulfide and methane sip up from beneath the sea floor and mix with the ocean water and dissolved carbon dioxide. Radiotrophs. Some fungi use gamma radiation and a natural pigment called melanin to create energy for growth. Gamma radiation is a high frequency band of light that is invisible to people and can cause damage to human tissues when encountered in large doses. These strange, rare fungi are called radiotrophs. They are found inside and around the abandoned Chernobyl nuclear power plant. So it's found around the abandoned Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Ukraine. Hence, both statements are not correct. Now let's come to question number 49. Section 144. Section 144 of the Criminal Procedure Code (CRPC) can remain in force for the maximum period up to number A 1 year, number B 2 years, number C 6 months, number D 2 months. So the correct answer is C, that is 6 months. No order under Section 144 shall remain in force for more than 2 months, but the state government can extend the validity for 2 months and maximum up to 6 months. It can be withdrawn at any point of time if the situation becomes normal. Section 144 of the Criminal Procedure Code (CRPC) of 1973 authorizes the executive magistrate of any state or territory to issue an order to prohibit the assembly of 4 or more people in an area. According to the law, every member of such unlawful assembly can be booked for engaging in rioting. Section 144 prohibits the gathering of 4 or more people in the concerned area, while during the curfew people are instructed to stay indoors for a particular period of time. The government puts a complete restriction on traffic as well. Markets, schools, colleges, and offices remain closed under the curfew, and only essential services are allowed to run on prior notice. Now let's come to the next question, that is question number 50. In the context of ecology, consider the following peers. We have ecological law on one side and we have their description on the other side. Number 1, Gauss Law. An organism cannot redevelop an organ or attribute discarded by its ancestors. Number 2, Dolos Law. Animals adapted to cold climates have shorter limbs. Number 3, Allen's Law. Two species with a similar niche cannot live together in the same place. Which of the pairs given above is or are not correctly matched? So the question is not correctly matched. The correct answer is D, that is 1, 2, and 3. So all the statements are not correctly matched. So the first one, which is Gauss Law, it is also called a competitive exclusion principle. It states that two species competing for the same limited source cannot coexist at constant population values. When one species has even the slightest advantage over another, the one with the advantage will dominate in the long term. This leads either to the extinction of the weaker competitor or to an evolutionary or behavioral shift towards a different ecological niche. The principle has been paraphrased in the maxim, complete competitors cannot coexist. Cannot coexist. So the maxim is complete competitors cannot coexist. Next we have Dolos Law. It is called as law of irreversibility. It states that an organism never returns exactly to a former state, even if it finds itself placed in conditions of existence identical to those in which it has previously lived. It always keeps some trace of the intermediate stages through which it has passed. It simply means that evolution always moves forward and an organism cannot redevelop an organ or attribute discarded by its ancestors. The last one we have Allen's law. It states that the body surface area to volume ratio for homeothermic animals varies with the average temperature of the habitat to which they are adapted. That is, the ratio is low in cold climates and high in hot climates. Homeothermic organisms are those which are able to keep their body temperatures at the same level despite any change in the temperature around it. As per this rule, animals adapted to cold climate have shorter limbs. However, few exceptions exist. So the correct answer is D. That is 1, 2, and 3. All of them are not correctly matched. So that's all, guys. See you in my next video. Bye.